Okay, so we're in the car, and this is Makana. We're really fortunate that our office came up. Well, it has a lot. They have a lot of land, and so they actually a group of people got together and said, "We want a community garden." And so our organization gave this land to the gardeners. You can see it's kind of overcast today. We usually have a lot of mulch on the right-hand side when they start chipping up trees. They don't really chip the trees up too much, but they gave us money to put that little shed, which has tools we can all share, and then we have this garden. So I'm going to go out there, and Makana, I'm going to leave her in the car with the AC on, because right now it's 87 degrees. 87 degrees, so I'm going to leave her in the car. I don't have my boots. I should have brought my boots. And then I'm going to take this stuff out. Oh, let's look at what my plot number is C12D12. So I'm going to open up the gate. We have rabbits that come into this place. And maybe I don't have to close it. And so they usually tell us don't leave the gate open. Except if we're going to drive through. I'm not going to drive all the way through because my stuff's pretty light. So, take the stuff out so that the air conditioning stays okay. We also usually have, they gave us a roll of wire that we can share to make cage beds. And I'm just bringing over kind of cheapy board to make a raised bed. It was really kind of strange. I ended up not using it, but I'm going to use it in this garden because any raised bed is better than none. As you can see, we have mulch all down on the ground, which they provide. And see, and they also provide hoses, nozzles, but I usually bring my own nozzle. And then every fall we have a festival, and they let us take as much as we want of the hay to re-mulch our yard or our plot. And a lot of that's what they keep our numbers on, are missing or outdated. It says there. So I have C12 and D12. The last person's name was Rachel. And fortunately, this woman's awesome. She only has some cucumbers. Everything else is covered. It looks beautiful. And I get C12 and D12, and I don't have to do a lot of work. Actually, I used to have that plot right there, which is these two plots here. But most of the plots, looks like people have done really well in using the hay. So in my container here from home, I have hay, I have my gloves, and I'm going to put my tomato stuff on it, and I'm going to put my raised beds. Oh, look, she's got some cantaloupe going on here, and it's kind of growing to this other side. Now, there's a lot of red ants here in Florida. I ended up having to buy boots, and this is what I can even compost on here, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just bring my yard waste. But if I do the back to Eden garden method, just want to look at the soil. The area that's covered by mulch, unfortunately, the past gardener, there's a lot of sand in this stuff. And I have a lot of soil that I'm going to bring in from the gardens. I have a lot of composting that will enrich this stuff, and we also get free soil that we have to pick up from the landfill. So yeah, I have great ideas for my garden. I'm really excited. I'm going to change that sign thing to have my name on it. I'm glad that it's just a few plants, really 2 plants on it that have grown. And even though it's summer, like people can do this when they have berries. Those are blueberries. And it looks like they have kale in there too. So I took the stuff over to the garden, and I left it they're really happy that there's actually cucumbers and cantaloupe only in my plot, my 2 plots, and that is so awesome. And it's covered all with hay, so it makes a perfect setup for the Back to Eden garden method, where I can just move the hay, put my soil that I'm going to start bringing over from the house, and then just pile it up there, and then build my take apart and rebuild my raised beds. I was talking to one of the other community gardeners, and what we do is we do an inspection. It's supposed to be every week, but sometimes that's not done, and then you get put on the calendar, so I'll have to check. We have a Google Calendar for our community garden that will tell us when. There's supposed to be 2 people that help inspect the place, and then you write it up, and then you tell people like they need to put more mulch down, or you know, their plants are encroaching upon other plots, or they have too many weeds. I mean, there's a certain criteria that we have just to have some order. But from the beginning, when we first started, some of the things are lax. They never used to let us do raised beds, and they never used to let us do the poles with the netting for fruit trees and things like that. So that's what's really good about this community garden, is that I'm going to look at it more so for those plants that take up more room. So if we end up having little to no space or sun, or maybe just a really small limited area for me, like even if it's only the front part of the house, like the entranceway, or if we even have a balcony, I don't know what we're going to have. But my goal is to have at least leafy greens growing. I may not even be able to move my whole aquaponic system, so I have a plan where I will either take apart my aquaponic system and put it in storage for another time, or I will end up giving it to someone, or I will sell the components of it. Mainly, it took a lot of time to make the PVC parts, and the containers take a lot of space. So right now I have one bed, growing bed, and I have the 50-gallon system that the fish are in. And so there are lakes nearby, and these are comets that I have. Tilapias you can't release in the wild because they multiply too much. And so you actually have to have some kind of a permit or a license to even raise tilapia. Comets are not the same. So you can buy comets and just have them raise them however large they get. But I don't like the ponds over here because my comets are basically, they were my pets for the past 3 years plus. And so people will say, well, why don't you just eat them? I don't want to eat my comets. If my dad were here, he would eat them because they're so huge. So like if you wanted comets and you lived in Central Florida and you could come and get them from my house, I'll give them to you if you're going to take care of them, and if you want them in your aquaponic system. And if you're going to do something else with them, I guess, you know, it's like I can't tell you what to do with them, but I know at least one person, one couple, that they have a pond and they don't have fish because some raccoons ate it. So I'm willing right now, because they're good friends of mine, to donate to them, or actually just gift them my 50-gallon container, my 9 humongous comet fish, because some of them are ornamental, longtails, and that kind of stuff, and also the water pump and the above aquaponic system. But if they don't want it because it's too much work and they're not really into it, I know the wife is, but the husband's not, because he's going to have to dig a bigger hole than what their pond is right now for the 50-gallon system. Then what I'm going to do is, I don't know if I have enough time to try to sell the whole thing. Like it cost me more than $100 just to buy the pieces that I did to create this aquaponic system. And yes, it was a test, but I really like having the water, having the pond system. So I'm hoping we have an area that's shaded, that's enclosed with a screen, where I can put the 50-gallon container with my aquaponic system. That and a couple of self-watering containers. And I'm hoping that I can grow kale, because if you grow leafy greens in the aquaponic system and it's in partial shade, I don't have to worry about the summer heat killing my plants because they'll always get water. But in the community garden setting, because they'll be in 100% sun all the time with no shade, then I need to grow other types of vegetables or fruits that can handle the heat. Just yesterday we were in the car and the car was registering, even though outside said it was like 91 to 93 degrees, the car thermostat was 115, and it's only the beginning of June, which means that even if it were like, usually it's about 5 degrees off, that's still 110 degrees. And with the humidity in Central Florida, it's just kind of a killer. The plants will wilt up, they'll need constant water, and they'll just die. That's why sweet potatoes do the greatest in Central Florida. So I'm really hopeful with the raised beds that I have. Once I won't be able to transport them in the car. Actually, I might be if I put my roof racks on, but my thought is I'm just going to take them apart because they're really thick. They're like 1 inch by, I think, 8 or 10 inches, and they're heavy. So it's actually easier for me to unscrew them, take them over, borrow somebody's cordless drill. And then, because some of the guys, like in maintenance, they'll probably loan it to me. And then reassemble the raised bed. And then I also have a wire, a screen wire that's underneath, so that moles and whatever type of animals can't dig underneath. Well, the beauty of that part, not only does it prevent animals from going underneath your raised bed to eat your root vegetables or fruit or whatever it is you're growing, is that the sweet potatoes just keep growing and growing outside of your plot. So if you grow sweet potatoes in a raised bed or in a container, they will have lots of space, but you want them to stop going down because you'll just keep digging. It's so much work. I once harvested sweet potatoes that were just basically free range. They weren't in a container. I'm going to call them free range because they were growing everywhere, and I kept, every time I was digging up one area, there was like more sweet potatoes were showing up, and it was just huge. I must have had more than 40, 50 some pounds of sweet potatoes, and I was giving that stuff away like bad. The only problem I had, in addition to that rather, the second problem I had was that the sweet potatoes were being eaten by the red ants. And so that is a problem, and I was getting really frustrated with the ants and some of the bugs in the community garden. And also there were some rats and rabbits that were also going around in the community garden. So yeah, I'm showing you me driving. I'm actually going to drive and go check out one of the homes that we're actually is on our list to look at. I'm not going to be able to see anything, but I'm just going to look at like the location of where it is. It's supposed to be like 11 miles from where our work office is. We both work at the same place, and it takes about 17 minutes on this route, which means that I just paid one toll to get onto this 417, and then I'm going to get off on Curry Ford, which I want to see like how many tolls I actually have to pay for it. So it looks like there's another toll. There's a toll going on and a toll coming off. So if it costs us $4 or something to go and come back from work, we have to calculate that in plus gas and more, a little more wear and tear on the car than us paying for a smaller place at maybe the same price or $50 less than what we would have paid for a whole single family house. So I just wanted to do an update on on the community garden, and I'm really looking forward to that. That gives me something to look forward to for this summer. Once I get my stuff over there, I'm not going to be too concerned about what I have planted because all the hay is down. But I'm going to just separate a section in the middle where there's just hay, dump all of my soil. The only problem, the other concern I have about the soil that I'm going to bring from the house is that some of it has red ants. And I tried to get rid of that. You'll see it on another video where I use diatomaceous earth, which is this powder, almost like talcum powder, that you can buy at any garden supply place. And you're supposed to sprinkle it on there, but keep sprinkling it on there. And supposedly that type of powder, that diatomaceous earth, is supposed to be like razor blades. It doesn't harm you as a human, but I use gloves and I scoop it out with a plastic cup. But it's supposed to, for ants, be like razor blades to an ant. So an ant walks across that stuff and it goes into their system. They ingest it into their system, and it basically, the way that I heard it, it dices them up inside. Sounds pretty gross.